Hello and welcome to the Wealth Chefs Love and Money mini series that we've been doing over here. And I'm Ann Wilson, if you haven't met me before. And we are this week chatting about money and love. How, can the two actually blend? How do you bring money into all of your different key relationships you have in the world? And the first live we did was all about your relationship with you and money, which is the absolute core starting point, that until you really get a healthy relationship between you and your money and learn how to manage it and give it great direction, it's really hard for that to ripple out into other relationships. And then in the second episode, we shared and explored how to bring money into your intimate relationship. Hi, Sheila. So glad to have you here again. So we spoke about money in your primary relationship, your intimate relationship, your relationship with your partner, how to blend that, how to have money conversations, how to really explore and continue your relationship with yourself, understanding your baggage and your beliefs that you come in, and really how to now start creating a healthy joint relationship together with your partner. After all, I always say, money is going to be in your life forever. You're going to have a partnership and a relationship with money. So the sooner you introduce your life partner or your current partner that you're getting into a relationship with this other partner, the better the threesome is going to be. So now we're getting into the next key relationship. And this is the relationship between teaching your kids how to be great with money. Such a vital, vital thing. There's so many different, sex education now comes into schooling, life skills, but there's this whole aspect around managing money and, getting confident with it and knowing how to manage it, knowing how to grow it, what assets are, which are so vital. And, when I speak around the world, I usually ask audiences, why do they want to create financial freedom? And the vast proportion of the room will usually say they want to do it for their kids. They want to give their kids the gift of never having to worry about money. Now, that is another whole live session we could have on that. And what I share is, that is fantastic. But firstly, the greatest gift you can give your kids is your own financial freedom. Making sure that you have a healthy relationship with money, making sure that you are ensuring that you never have to rely on your kids in the future. You never have to burden them with your financial well-being later on in life. And then the second gift you can give them is not a big pile of money, but is great money skills, so that they can go out into the world and experience contribution, giving value to the world, and love playing with this ingredient, which is such a vital thing in the world. Why would you ever want to rob your kids of that? So let's dive right in. Now, if you don't have kids, still stay listening, because you can share this with nieces and nephews. Maybe you've got adult kids. You can share it with them so that they can start having these money conversations with kids. Because it's been found in research that kids from as young as 3 years old really grasp money choices. And what is even possibly more frightening, that some of their wide in money beliefs and their relationship and patterns with money, if it's not intervened later, are set by the time they're 7. So you want to get started early. Now, don't worry if you haven't yet had the big M conversation with your kids yet. It's never too late. Today is always the only day we have to make choices. So there's no point of regret. We say, okay, what can I do from today going forward to really make this going forward, really give this to the youngsters that I love in my life. And so there are 6 key skills that really you're wanting to embed and give to kids. And I'm going to unpack at different ages how you can bring these into your kids' life and what you can do with activities to give your kids real money smarts. Now, the first skill is learning how to budget. I also prefer to call these spending plans. So this is consciously thinking ahead about what might be coming up, where money is going to be directed to. This is that amazing money skills of money leadership and money management. Being able to think, what do I really want? What's coming up? And where am I going to direct that money? So this is breaking out of this break even, just, there's money here, what can I get rid of it on? This is really starting to break that link and getting kids to go think that, money is for a specific purpose, and planning ahead. So budgeting, spend planning is really key. So that's one of the skills you want to teach them. The second one is about how to make and deal with choices, with spend decisions, where you're needing to understand the consequences of the choices you're making. Now, I often say that our wealthy life is not created where money flows in. Our wealthy life is created where money goes out. These are by the spend decisions we make, but where we choose to direct our money. And as the more you can get your kids to understand this, then they understand that those choices have a direct impact on their quality of life, the things that they do have and don't have. And this is really about them starting to understand the value exchange that happens on that back end and focus their attention on there. The third key skill you want them to be able to have is one called waiting. It's also delayed gratification. I'm sure you've heard of the marshmallow test done with kids. And it's found that success later in life in various things, whether it's about your health and well-being, whether it's in relationships, whether it's with money, whether it's about, basically personal mastery, delayed gratification is an incredibly important muscle that people learn. And in money, this is really important. It links directly to being able to save and keep money in your life instead of believing you've got to get rid of it as immediately. Also, learning this skill is a key skill needed to ensure that your kids avoid falling into the buy now, will have now, pay later trap of credit cards and debt, which is really around this whole thing that I have to have it now, I can't wait. And so delaying gratification or being able to wait and really see the benefit of that trade-off is a very, very great skill. So that's the third one. The fourth skill that you want your kids to be able to have is understanding the reward for money, for the exchange of service, to really get in their mind that money is an exchange of value. So when they produce and provide value into the world through chores or doing things or coming up with something that makes life easier for others, then there's a money exchange, which is why most financial experts, and I also believe that an allowance should come with some kind of exchange of value. So they start getting a sense that that's that exchange. And that where does money come from? It's not just about it popping out of a machine in the wall or the bank or out of a plastic card, that there's actually an exchange of value that relates to it. And so they start getting a healthy sense that their value that they bring to the world has value and are comfortable to be asking for money in return, further on down their life, and breaking that poverty cycle of so many people are big-hearted and want to give away their value because somehow they feel getting money for it is dirty. So we can start getting rid of those things really early, or making sure they don't come into play. The next key lesson, so this lesson number 5, is understanding about assets. Understanding that there are these things, these investments that can earn money. And so really start explaining the concept of compound interest, of that there are these 3 different asset classes: businesses, where you use other people's time or money or leverage; where there's a stock market; where there's property, where if you spend some money and energy creating those can go on and working for you. So really starting them to understand that money can work for you, and ultimately that is the only way you create financial freedom. And so this is great. You can have these in conversations as to why you're investing and what you're doing and what your financial freedom number is and what investments you're getting in place. So that's number 5, that money needs to work, and you can put money to work in these different asset forms, and that these assets are the things you want to be going after rather than these liabilities, because that brings you real freedom of choice. And then the final lesson, number 6, which I just feel is the ultimate lesson of why we all mastering this money thing, is the lesson of what I call enoughness. Enough for me has so often this connotation for a lot of people that it's somehow, oh, no, don't worry, I've got enough. But no, it's about, wow, there is enough. I am enough. There's enough in the world for everybody. And it's the direct opposite of scarcity. A lot of people might like the word abundance, but I love the word enoughness because it comes for me with a real deep energy of letting go. And I think if we can embed this into kids, that sharing, that contribution, that giving of money deeply sends that message to themselves that there is enough, that there's more. And there's a lot of little ways you can do that. It's also through decluttering, passing through, and a knowing that when you pass forward, you're actually coming from a great energy of knowing that there's more than enough for you. So those are the key 6 lessons that you're aiming to get embedded in your kids to really set them up for success in this area called life around money. So Sheila, you said, your mum taught me 50% of my pocket money for gifts, annual holiday saving, and the rest was for my half share of horse riding lessons, sweets, Sunday morning movies, etc. Great. So what a great lesson. So we're going to come into, what are some of the ways you can teach your kids these at different stages? And so if you've been around or if you've read the Wealth Chef book, and you understand, I love what I call the wealth pots. And there's no time too soon to start your kids with their own wealth pots. And I prefer to call them wealth pots rather than money pots, because to me, the money is what goes into these pots, but it's about creating a wealthy, juicy, really amazingly fulfilled life. And so you can start from 3 years old. So from 3 to 5, the key lesson you're trying to embed, well, the key lesson you are teaching your kids at that stage is a lesson about that you don't firstly just buy, you don't have to buy something every time you go into a shop. So it's this breaking, what about me cycle that there doesn't always have, you don't have to buy something. A lot of people still in their 50s feel as soon as they go into a store, they have to buy something. So experiencing, you don't have to get that. And the second key lesson is starting to teach this lesson about waiting for something important. So starting to get saving. So the first one, how do you teach kids about not having to buy something? Now, when you go into a shop, and if you say to kids, they're asking for something and you say, oh no, we don't have money for that, you're in fact lying to the kid, and you're starting to make them confused because they've seen you, paying for other groceries, or maybe they've seen credit cards or debit cards. Don't underestimate how sharp kids are. So far rather, when you're going into a shop and maybe you're going to buy a gift for a birthday party they're going to, or something else, up front you can say, okay, we're going to the shop to buy this, this, and this, or a gift for your friend Amy, and today we're not going to be buying anything for you. That is why we're going into the shop. And a kid quickly then learns that there's specific purposes, that you can go into a shop with a specific intention for a specific thing and then come out with that. It doesn't always have to be this reactive, let's see what there is type kind of goodies, bright shiny object syndrome. So now getting to the saving. For your 3 to 5 year old, you want 3 wealth pots in place. Start them off with that. And these are going to be their spend pot, their save pot, and their sharing pot. It's nice to have the S's. You can also call them your consume pot, your savings pot, because that's what it is, and maybe your giving pot. You could choose what words really resonate with you. I quite like bringing in the consuming side. It depends on your kids' vocabulary, because it's understanding that money that in that pot is to consume now, and once it's spent, it's gone. So any money they come in, so let's say you give them an allowance, that is divided up 50% into that consuming spending pot, so they get a bulk of that there, 40% into that saving pot, and 10% into the giving. Now, to really help your kids, let's say they get $5 or 50 Rand or £5. Break it up and give it to them in the coins or notes that is already divided up in that way, so that you sit with them and go, okay, each time they go, okay, this is for the spending, this is for the savings part, and that's for the giving. And with the giving, in each of these pots, you're going to have conversations about going, what is a little savings goal? So set a savings goal with them, saying, what are they wanting? Maybe they're wanting to buy that tutu or the wand. That is a little bit more than what's in their consuming, their to spend pot. So have that goal, but help them set a goal that's achievable. Especially when they're really little, that you want them to achieve that goal in literally, 3 or 4 weeks' time, so they can see that benefit. Because if the gratification has to be delayed too long, then it gets boring and a negative side. So set those goals. And, if it's a slightly bigger goal of something that they're really wanting, you can maybe offer to go 50-50 contribute, that every amount they save and keep in that pot, you'll put in an amount. You can play with that, but the essence is 3 parts: spending, saving, and sharing, or your giving pot. Now, for the giving pot, also give them the choice of where that money goes. This is not about your contribution. You've got your own pots to play with. This is your kids' pot. So tell them that this is about being able to give money to something that's important to them. Ask them what's important to them. They might say, animals or the earth, or maybe that homeless person they've seen down the street. And you can start talking about this amazing side, that, how grateful you are that you as a family and individuals have enough that you can also give to the things that are important to you. So that's your 3 to 5 year olds. So now your 6 to 9 year olds, now the key lessons are about really understanding choices. That there's always choice to be made, and choices of consequence. So you can, even in the savings part, you can have shorter savings things and spend that on X or Y, or you can, again, it interweaves with this delayed gratification, that if they want something maybe bigger or more substantial, that they can make those choices. But it is all about choices. And really, one of the things that I see so often with parents is that the parents themselves struggle with the delayed gratification. And so jump in too soon and want to rescue the kid, or go, oh, shame, they really would love that, and actually undermine the kid's saving or their attempt in that. So just be very aware if that goes on. Lucy, it's so great to see you. Hi, Sandra. And Sandra, you're saying your son does exactly what you're saying, and he's now 32 and still plans everything. Well, this is the thing. You'll be amazed. Kids set up these habits early, and the sooner you do it, you actually embed it in them. And instead of, as an adult in our 40s, trying to now get our spending down from 120% of what we bring in to get to our spending to be 50% of earnings, when we start right up front, then a kid goes, well, duh, that's just the way it is. Waving back at you, Lucy. So now, in the 6 to 9 year old category, you also want them to start getting involved in making some of their own financial choices. So this is not just going, okay, here's your allowance, maybe your pocket money, or maybe they get gift money, and splitting it up between what you can spend now, the saving, and the contribution, the giving. You're actually going to now add another pot. And this is where you add the pay yourself, or the investment, or the asset pot. And please know this, kids at 6 start understanding compounding. Now from 6 to 9, what you might want to do is open an investment account. And I actually recommend you open an investment account from kids once they're 1 day old. If you're in the UK, that could be a junior ISA. In South Africa, it could be a tax-free savings account. Actually start their investments going. And that's where you can let grandparents and friends know that they rather put money into that rather than just piles and piles of plastic that gets broken and ends up as microbeads in the ocean. Wow, there was a little bit of a rant from me. But veer back to where we're on here. So get that account, but now actually in their pots, they want to start still having their spend 50%. Their saving is now reduces to 20%. Remember, it was 40% previously, and then now it's 20% saving for something that they want. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but their allowances will also have gone up with age. And now you've added in the growth. And start having conversations about compounding. Play games on a compounding calculator. Don't try and explain the concept esoterically. Show real numbers. So, if they save, $10 a week, every week for X number of years, how much will it make? Play with a compound calculator. Now, from 6 to 9, what I really recommend, because compounding can feel quite slow initially, that in that pot, maybe you say, if for every $10 they put in, you will put in $2. Now, I know that that's a big compounding return, but you really want them to start getting the sense that in that pot, if it stays, if they never spend it, it grows. So they start understanding this concept of leaving money to grow rather than it being allocated to spending down the line. So really important here. Now, back to this about them making financial choices. What you want to do is agree that certain of their expenses, so it could be clothing, for example, that between 6 to 9, I recommend that it's for a shorter chunk of time. So you do it quarterly, or maybe it's with school terms. And you're going to say there's a certain budget or allocated amount of money for their clothing for that period of time, for those 3 or 4 months. And you're going to sit with them and go, okay, we're going to go and buy you clothes. Maybe you need some new sneakers, you need a pair of jeans, maybe you need a jacket. And you can actually sit and do a budget and go, well, let's see what this costs. And go, okay, you're going to be given this amount of money to be responsible for these categories of things. So you need to get X, Y, and Z in that. And then you allow them to go and make that spend choice. They can choose to spend it all in one go. Maybe they spread it out for that clothing, so choose some categories for that. Maybe it's clothing plus their school lunches, and so on. And now they'll start learning these choices, that if they go and blow all of that money on one really zhuzh jacket or cool looking pair of sneakers, then for the rest of that quarter, that's it for their clothes. They start understanding. Now again, this requires such discipline from you to not intervene. Allow them to start learning these choices. And in the same way, with that spending plan, if they find much cheaper sneakers, or if they go to the charity shop and get all their clothes, and if they've got what was required, they are then allowed to spend the rest of that money however they want. So again, you're empowering to learn how to manage in these different ways. So now we get on to the 10 to 13-year-old. They are really now starting to understand compounding more. So now you're going to stop doing the you being effectively the investment asset on this more exaggerated compounding, and really get them involved with their own investment account, with that investment pot. But you're also going to add an additional pot at this stage. And at this stage, you're wanting to add consciously the difference between saving or spending and just consuming, but actually allocating some money purely to joy. Because so many of us later on in life struggle with this concept called playing. And often between 10 and 13-year-olds, this concept of play, just pure unallowed play, starts reducing. So you want to bring that in. So you've gone from your 50% spend to your 20% save to your 20% growth and your 10% give. And now you add that play pot in. So from the savings pot, you now reduce that down to 10% pure saving for a future thing that they want to buy. It could be a toy, but 10% saving purely for fun, purely for play, and really explain that this is something that just brings them joy. So Sheila, in your case, that may be the horse riding, that may be the dancing lesson, and they start seeing that that money gets allocated to something, and again, making choices of what actually brings them joy and value in their life. You continue with that investment account, but now get them involved. Explain index trackers, let them see the account online, and even possibly make some choices about where those assets go, but let them see that, and that 10% goes into that. So you're going to accumulate that 10% and put it into that account rather than just a general growth account, so they can start seeing that investment. Maybe they want to start a small business, that could go in there as well, and really start encouraging them to understand an assets that can work hard for them. So now we move on to the 13 to 18-year-old. Oh, and at the 10 to 13-year-old, now you're going to add a few more. You're going to continue making them responsible for the certain of their financial decisions. But what I would recommend is you start extending the time period. So if you used a quarterly budgeting for, say, their clothing and maybe their school lunches, you now extend that to every 6 months. And you do a budgeting session with them on that, and you add a few more items. So maybe in terms of that, it's still their clothing, maybe it's their school lunches, maybe it's some of their transport decisions, and they need to manage that money. It's really important now that they have their own bank account. In fact, I'd open their bank account at 6, but from 10, you want it to be a transactional bank account with a bank card where they can access a debit card, where they can pay for things directly. They can also access cash. Start letting them be empowered. And again, if they blow that all, they need to understand the consequences. So think about the category. So if it is transport to get to school and back, and they've blown all of that. Well, maybe you don't want to include that in, because then you're going to undermine the whole process. But you know what? If they've blown their school lunch and they need to pillage from the fridge every day and make their own sandwich to go in, well, so be it. You know, that's cool. That's about understanding those lessons. And again, remember, in terms of sit down and have that budgeting conversation, that spend plan conversation, so they really understand that. And again, if they've got allocated all of that and they've got money left over, it is their choice what they want to spend it on. Whether it's going on holiday, going to the disco, buying something else, their choice. To really reward them for also making, you know, really good money choices, or negotiating, or getting more bang for their buck. And so now we get to the 13 to 18-year-old. Really, this is the last big push. And in here, you really want to start having the conversations about their tertiary education and how that's going to be paid. So now you're going to add in all of the parts. So between 13 and 18, they've got their big girl pots in place, their big wealth pots. They're going to have all pots. So you're going to have 50% for their general spend, 10% for their growth pot. That's in their investment pot. They pay themselves first. 10% for their savings, saving up for things that are down the line. 10% for fun and doing that. 10% for giving. And now 10% for their own personal growth and personal expansion, their education, knowing that they are ultimately the most important asset they have, and that they need to consciously understand that they need to allocate money to them. And so this can be tertiary education, and that they need to participate in that. And so, yeah, Sheila said, yeah, they can walk to school. Absolutely, if they've blown that money. So here's the thing. Start having those conversations early. Don't wait until it's 6 months before they're going to go to that. Understand that there's costs involved. So this can be saving, investing towards it, and some of that money needs to go towards that. Start having conversations about where can they find free money. Are there scholarships or bursaries they can apply to? Start looking at the different tertiary education, different universities and colleges, and what are the costs involved. Have open conversations around this. It's so, so important that this isn't like a taboo subject or a guilt, and be really honest about what you as a family can afford. And not from a contracted side, but go, okay, let's be creative. How can we make this happen? You know, what is it in place? And so, you know, there you have it. And now at this point, from the allowance side, in terms of the budgeting, I really believe from 13 to 18, you want them to have an annual spending plan. So these would be for all those categories you go in. And, you know, I've done quite a lot of research and had conversations with people who've done this and said, you know, it's amazing that when there's one specific guy I was chatting to was sharing with me with how he and his wife started with allocating his kids being responsible for certain spend decisions from the time they were 6. And he said by the time both of his kids went to college, they actually had their full annual college allowances. They were responsible for paying their college fees, for paying for all of their housing, their rent, their food, and really were able to make really empowered financial decisions, and they knew how to negotiate, squeeze the juice, really understood the back-end spend decisions. So make your kids responsible for those things. And you know what? If they end up having to go out freezing cold with no coat, that's okay. They will survive. They'll quickly learn. Or if they don't have money to go out and play with their friends on holiday, that's also okay. Now, once they're in tertiary education, just about every financial expert, also in all research shows, encourage your kids to have a job, to start earning money. And in fact, in their teens is really a great way to do this. And this is, again, they can contribute. So they can start really getting a sense of that value exchange beyond just doing chores for you, actually out in the world, start experiencing. Now, it's recommended that at college or university, this isn't more than 20 hours a week, as that can really start impacting their studying time. But less than 20 hours a week has actually been shown to improve their results in their school. So, wow, there we had it, a big session. We are already at half an hour. So just thank you for hanging out here. You know, ask any questions you have on this kid stuff. Share your results. Share with, you know, what do you do with your kids to bring these money conversations to the table? so that you can make your kids really world ready, and that they can go out in the world with the greatest gift that I believe you can give them, which is confidence around money, skills to know how to make it grow and invest, and already in place a whole system of wealth pots that are designed to support them and serve them, so that their life can be fulfilled and round, and their money is already being allocated to all of these different areas of their life. So enjoy. Thanks for hanging out with me here. And tomorrow's session, so our next session, the final in the Love and Money series, is now about really understanding money as an energy to make change in the world. This is about money as a social tool of using power. And for those of us who really believe that we can make this world a great place, that we can right so many of the challenges and the wrongs that we've had to the world, whether it's on our environment, whether it's with our earth, whether it's our animals, whether it's with basic human rights. We need money as an energy force. So how, as you've rippled out and looked after yourself first as a core, your intimate relationships, your kids and your family, how to now start directing money as a force for good, and why it is so important that you master this thing called money, so we can have more people with an incredible consciousness to turn this world around to the most amazing, abundant, expansive place it's meant to be, away from contraction and scarcity and fear of each other, but one of joy and connection, because that's ultimately why we're all doing this. And so it's been so great to be with you today, all of you, and see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.